All right, so tonight we get to learn about our pelvic floor and bring our awareness to that area. So first, just lie on your back and begin your connection, your grounding, your letting go of the day's worries and stresses, holdings, carryings, thoughts, and how all of those things accumulate in your tissues. All of your thought patterns, your worries, your fears, even your hopes and your dreams are somehow held in how you carry yourself through each and every day. And just feel now as you lie on the floor how, without as much work against gravity, you can begin to notice your own ways of holding, posturing, carrying yourself. And which parts of your body can just let go and surrender into the floor. And which parts might still be ready. Prepared. On alert, even. Feel the back of your shoulders, back of your ribs, the right and left sides of your trunk, your hips and buttocks, right and left legs. And without really trying to change anything, just notice how you're breathing. Notice if there's any movement in your trunk, in your belly, your chest. And if you're sensing movement in your belly and or your chest, which moves first? So sometimes we breathe in and our chest lifts, and then maybe we get a little movement in our belly. Or if you've been taught to belly breathe, you breathe in and your belly fills, but then you might feel some movement in your chest. If you've had no orientation to specific styles of breathing, you might just naturally be feeling a lifting and lowering in your chest. So gently place your hands so that your fingertips are faced towards each other on your lower abdomen, below your belly button, somewhere between your belly button and your pubic bone. So the palms of your hands are down, fingertips just lightly resting. And just put a very light intention into letting your lower belly just lift as you breathe in and lower as you breathe out. As if there's a balloon in your abdomen. And as you breathe in, you draw the air in, and the balloon expands and presses your belly a little upward and outward. And as you breathe out, it deflates again. Then move your hands up a little bit so that they're resting on your sides where your ribs are. So above the waist, where there's really neither your pelvis nor your ribs, but up a little higher. So you can feel your width. And see if you can feel just a gentle suggestion of your ribs widening with the inhalation. So your hands are resting on the sides, your sides where your ribs are, and you're breathing in. Your belly might be expanding, your chest might be lifting, but see if you can also notice a width to your breath. This might be a very small movement, or you might not really feel it much at all. So just sort of imagine as you breathe in, your lungs are like big hot air balloons filling forward, upward, downward, and outward, as well as backward. So you can rest your hands wherever is comfortable for you, and this time bring your attention to the back of you. And notice with the inhalation if you feel any changes in pressure of your back into the floor. Is there any sense of the breath in the back of yourself? So often we think of our breath, sort of one-dimensionally. We know our chest might lift and lower, and some of us might have an awareness of our belly, but it's all in front of us. We often don't think of the expanding into our sides and into our backs. And then also now, please bring your attention to sort of just above your clavicles, your collarbones. In fact, bring your fingertips and lightly touch those collarbones, and then right above the collarbones is an indent. The lungs go all the way up to there. So as you breathe in, feel the top of the inhalation, just imagine the top of the lungs there. And you breathe out. So the breath moves your body forward in space, sideways, backwards to the floor, and sort of upward. And you can rest your hands down. And finally, notice the downward pressure of your breath. Very slight. So again, with the image of the balloon in your lower belly, the balloon will be expanding three-dimensionally, forward, sideways, into your low back, and downward, into your pelvic floor and genitals. And you may just sense or imagine, just sensing with the inhalation a gentle opening or swelling, and a relaxing with the inhalation. And just for a few breaths, exaggerate it just enough so that you can really sense that area in your pelvic floor. So that as you breathe in, you're just very lightly pressing sort of downward and outward. And as you breathe out, as if you're just lightly drawing something like a light marble up inward towards your vagina. So it's like a Kegels, but very gentle and subtle. Just to wake that area up. And then just relax your intention and bring your attention to this sense of your whole trunk being like a cylinder that your lungs live and breathe in. So cylindrically, there's the front, sides, and back of you, the top, just above your collarbones, and the floor of the cylinder being your pelvic floor region. And can you widen your attention to feel the whole of your cylinder? Or maybe you can just feel parts at one time, maybe just the front expanding forward and back, or the sides. And some people have a clear image of the diaphragm, which is attached to the lowest ribs all the way around you. It's a big round, sort of pancake-like, and in its resting position it's lifted upwards, a little bit upwards towards your lungs and heart. And when it contracts, that's what creates the inhalation. It contracts and is drawn downwards, and so that downward contraction is what draws the air in. And because the diaphragm is sort of drawn and contracted or pressed downward, that's what can create the swelling in your lower abdomen and your genitals, because there's this subtle downward pressure towards your intestines, your guts. And if your lower abdomen is soft and relaxed, then you're not fighting yourself. You're not fighting your own breathing efforts. So often we're sort of taught, especially women, but I don't think it's uncommon in men, to hold our abdomen in, to have a flat belly, to look just so. And in doing that, if we do it constantly, if we make that a postural habit, then each inhalation is actually fighting against the tone of the abdomen. And then again, bringing your attention to your pelvic floor with the inhalation and exhalation. Just slightly exaggerating the downward pressure as you inhale, and letting it go as you exhale. And for some women, it's easy to just imagine a silk scarf flowing out of the vagina with the inhalation, and just lightly being drawn back in with the exhalation. It's a very light and soft image. And then next time you get ready to go through the cycle of inhalation and exhalation, use the shh sound with your exhalation. So you'll breathe in, and as you exhale, shh. And just do that several times. You might just pull in the pelvic floor very gently next time as you inhale. And see if you can feel that very subtle activation of those deep pelvic floor muscles. And then just rest. Let your attention be soft, just noticing the influence of the attention, the deep, relaxing, soothing sounds. And it's interesting, during states of stress, which we all experience to more or less intensity, throughout really any given day, it creates a hypertonic state of our muscles, and especially the deep muscles of our pelvic floor, our low back, and our diaphragm. So learning to bring a gentle attention to ourselves during the day and just taking a few relaxing breaths, using some of the movements that we're practicing today, can really help keep the system soft and receptive and pliable so that in situations you're more available to respond in a healthy way rather than react in usually a more compulsive or habitual way. Now place your hands on your sides again, along your ribs. And this time, as you exhale, make the S sound. So no H this time, just breathing in. And see if you can feel that gentle activation of the ribs. How it creates just enough resistance to create a clear awareness of that area. And then when you let the S sound go and you inhale, you can really feel the opening and the expanding of the belly, the ribs, the back, the pelvic floor. And several times just continue with the S sound as you exhale. Good, and then let that go and just pause for a moment. And then place your hands on your upper ribs above your breasts. And this time, as you exhale, make the HA sound. See if you can feel that activating more movement downward in those ribs as you your air out. And then just allow again for that opening and expanding in all areas of the cylinder with the next inhalation. Just 4 or 5 or 6 times, letting the air out with an ah. And when you've done that several times, just let your hands rest to your side. And just feel the breath throughout the whole of the cylinder. Inhaling and expanding the balloons of your lungs forward in your chest and abdomen, to your sides, into your back. Three-dimensionally, not just above the clavicles, but above them in front and inside and in back as well. And of course downward into the pelvic floor and genitals. please gently bend your knees up one at a time so that your feet are flat on the floor. We call this position standing through your feet. And just check and make sure your knees are in a comfortable, balanced position. And just a few times, do the slight exaggeration again, where you breathe in and there's a gentle pressing downward, a swelling into the genitals, down into the pelvic floor. And breathing in and just lightly drawing in as if an image of a marble, sliding up your vagina, or if you're a man, pulling up the testicles slightly. Breathing out and letting it go. And then just let that image go, let that practice go. And very gently take your knees just a little. It doesn't have to be a lot unless it's really easy or comfortable for you, but just rock your knees a little to the right and back to the middle. And then as you take your knees to the right, breathe in. And as you bring them back to the middle, just gently breathe out. So bring the rhythm of the breath into this movement. And then see if you can add the movement of the pelvic floor. Breathing in, letting the knees drop a little to the right, feeling a gentle downward pressure into the pelvic floor and genitals. And as you breathe out, contracting in the pelvic floor as if you're drawing that marble up through your vagina or lifting your testicles up. And having your knees come upward with that movement. Breathing in, softening the pelvic floor, dropping your knees to the right. And breathing out with that slight contraction upward. Just one or two more times and just pause in the middle. Let your legs down long and rest. Feel yourself breathing into your cylinder. Noticing if that little movement to the right changed any of the perception of the breath on the right side compared to the left side. And again, please bend your knees up. And begin gently rocking your knees to the left and back to the middle. Just feeling the weight shift across your pelvis to the left. The weight shift across the soles of your feet. So as you go to the left, you're more aware of the outside of your left foot and the inside of your right foot. Notice if your head wants to turn a little leftward to follow your knees. And when you're ready, add in the movement of the pelvic floor so that you breathe in, drop your knees to the left, open and relax in the pelvic floor and genitals. And you breathe out, create that slight contraction in your pelvic floor as you draw your knees upward. And this doesn't have to be a big contraction. You can kind of choose to go for it like you would a Kegels, or you can choose to really wake yourself up to the subtleties of contractions in your genital area. And then a couple times you might take your knees to the right, breathing in, pulling them up to the middle while gently contracting in your pelvic floor, and then to the left. Breathing in, breathing out as you bring your knees back to the middle, emphasizing the contraction, as if drawing a marble up into your vagina, or slightly raising your testicles. And if you can do all that and let your head roll, that's nice too. And let your jaw be soft. And next time you come back to the middle, you can pause and let your legs down long. Take a full rest. Just feel, notice what sensations are really alive and awake in you now. What are you aware of now that you weren't aware of before? Parts of yourself do you feel the pulsating, the expansion and relaxation of the breath, filling and unfilling the whole of your trunk? And again, please bend your knees up one at a time. Interlace your fingers and bring them behind your head. And find a way, just experiment a little bit, to find a way to use your arms to lift your head easily. Usually this means drawing your elbows towards each other and then sort of taking your elbows down towards your knees, just letting your arms carry the full weight of your head and relaxing it back down. And then see if you can include the rhythm of the breath with this, so that as you lift your head, you exhale. And as you lower your head, you make more room in your trunk and you inhale. And then connect this all the way down your spine, your abdomen, into your pelvic floor, so that as you lift your head and exhale, you slightly, gently contract in the pelvic floor. And as you lower the head, you fill with air and you feel that gentle downward pressure or swelling into the genitals. When people talk about deep core muscles, these are truly a part of that deep core muscular system. But in our pretending to be so pure or Puritan system, we rarely talk about this part of the core. Okay, let your hands down and just rest for a moment. Feel the natural movement of the breath without doing or changing anything. And one last time, interlace your fingers first over your chest, and then move your fingers one finger over so you're interlaced in what we in the Feldenkrais world call non-habitually. So you're just one finger over from what you naturally would do. And then bring your hands behind your heads, please. And gently drop your knees a little to the right as you inhale. And see if you can lift your head. Exhale, bring your knees back up and create that gentle contraction, that gentle lifting of the pelvic floor. And just do that several times. Lowering your head, dropping your knees to the right, inhaling, softening the pelvic floor, and just very light and gentle, not a lot of work, drawing your knees up, contracting in the pelvic floor, and lifting your head. Letting it all go as your knees flop to the right and the breath fills you up. Soft and smooth. Notice if you're tightening in your jaw. Feeling all of you open and expand as your knees drop, your head goes down, your breath fills you. And feeling all of you sort of fold together as your knees come together. You exhale, you lift your head. And then when you're ready, try this a few times to your left. Just go slow at it. You don't necessarily have to do all of them at once the first time. You might just try dropping your knees and contracting in your pelvic floor, connecting into the breath. And then when you feel ready, you might add in the lifting of the head, but only if it's easy. No need to add stress and hypertonicity to the lesson. That's helping wake that up to a new state of relaxation, presence, aliveness. And when you've done that several times, you can just let your head down, let your arms rest, and your legs rest. And again, just feel the breath in the whole of you. Sometimes when we think of being in a relaxed state, we think of, like being a wet noodle, being limp. Think of a flower that's wilted, is completely relaxed. But one of my teachers talks about a relaxed but awakened state. What's really alive and vital. It's not tense, it's not working hard, it's not stressed, but there's a relaxed life to it. You think of the moment a flower is completely opened. It's not a tight little bud, and it's not wilting yet. It's just vibrantly opened, full of life, fragrance, vitality. Are there places in you now where you have this experience? Is it possible to awaken the inherent power in the core of our being, our pelvic floor, and bring that life force forward into our everyday life? So I invite you, when you're ready, take your time, roll to your sides and come to sitting, and then standing, and just spend a while being with yourself and noticing if this lesson has had any influence on your movement, on your walking, on your being, and on the rest of your day. So enjoy.